own road race, called the Super Prix, although one sporting magazine dubbed it as the Grand Prix of Black Country. And Chris Goffey was foolhardy enough to take part.
It's taken 15 years of planning and legislation to get street racing into the city centre, but the organisers had done a wonderful job. The circuit was lined with Armco and catch fencing, with safety barriers and runoff areas, and despite being in the heart of the city, was very, very fast. The marshalling, fire and rescue arrangements were all first class too. If Hurricane Charlie hadn't decided to wreck Britain's bank holiday, it would have been a splendid day for Birmingham. Top Gear had been invited to take part in the Pro-Am race for Renault 5 Turbo Saloon car racers. The celebrities, the AMs, would do 5 laps around the circuit, and then the professionals, the pros, would take over and do a further 5 laps. I was taking the hot seat for the pro part of the race. For the AMs, truck racer and hot rod star Barry Lee was handling the Top Gear racer. Barry Lee, you're my partner for this Pro-Am race. This is crazy. I'm with the professionals, you're with the celebrities. You're very much the professional driver, aren't you?
Well, really and truly, it's the other way around. I think you're the professional on this because I was truck racing last weekend. That's 1,000 horsepower and 7 tonne. We've now got 7 horsepower and 10 tonne.
But your background was in hot rod racing. What was that all about?
Hot rod racing is a small oval, non-contact form of sport. Now with motor racing here at Birmingham, this new circuit, we haven't got any run-off roads at all. So it's really going to be like being back at Wimbledon Stadium for me.
You think this is going to be a contact sport as well, do you?
Oh, without doubt. With Willie Green in there, not half.
It seems to me we're racing really down a sort of corridor of steel. I mean, does that worry you at all?
No, it doesn't necessarily worry me. It worries me if somebody does make a mistake, because if they bounce off the steel in front of you, you've got then 2 obstacles to try and miss. We can't cut corners. There's nowhere to go, so really and truly it's going to be driving with your head and not your right foot.
Yeah, but it's not a dangerous circuit.
Anything over 30 mile an hour is dangerous. Christopher says you're on your own, but let's be honest, you know, we're going to go out there, I'm going to try and put it as far up the grid, and you're going to win the race for us.
So all in all, it sounds like an extremely risky and chancy business I've let myself in for here.
Well, that's it. That's the name of motor racing.
As might have been expected from his vast experience, Barry stormed away from the line, and after a race-long duel came in second. However, Barry's success was not good news for yours truly, since the pros started their race in reverse grid order, and that put me in 21st place on the crowded grid of 24 cars. As the pros lined up for the start of our race, we were suddenly hustled off the grid and back to the paddock. Several of the Renault drivers were not happy. David DaCosta, you're one of the regular Renault 5 drivers. There we all were on the grid. What happened? Why are we back here in the paddock?
Well, apparently FISA made one of their usual, great decisions and said that because television time was about to come up, we would all have to leave the grid because we are small fry and not race today.
So what's coming on instead of us?
The Formula 3000.
I understand the commercialism behind motor racing. Without the sponsors, it couldn't work, not with the expense of racing these days. But at the same time, for a company to put money into racing, they obviously need a return from it. And frankly, they've not had a very good return from today's events. It's rather sad.
Halfway through the main Formula 3000 Super Prix race, Andrew Gilbert-Scott in car number 3 was fighting his way back up through the field after a pit stop when he lost his car on the exit of the first corner, spun and slid backwards into Alan Furte's car, which had been parked on the track after a previous breakdown. The ensuing confusion partially blocked the track and the organisers stopped the race, and then decided it was too dangerous for any more single-seat racing. So guess who was detailed to get back out there and entertain the crowds? Off we all went onto the grid again.
Definitely underway, 5-lap race, and it's number 26 that is in the lead.
This is very hairy. I don't think I've ever been this fast in such terrible conditions before. We can't even see the braking points. The rivers, the roads covered in water down there. This is crazy. You're driving on when you can see other people's brake lights. Just trying not to hit anybody. I'm going to get these.
the white car. It's just a case of looking for the man in front of you, foot hard down. And I think we've got him on braking here, but no, we haven't. He's taken me on the inside. We're up alongside him again, but precious yards here. I'm risking everything to try and catch him. We've taken the white car. Jesus. That must have done us a bit of good. It slowed everybody down a bit.
Despite the weather, we finished 11th out of 24.
All I can say is don't ever ask me to do that again.
Well done, Chris. Well
Absolutely
done. Did you enjoy it?
petrifying.
Birmingham certainly proved its point. Full-scale street racing is exciting and spectacular round the city centre, and they're already looking forward to the 1987 event. If anyone trusts me with their car, I might even be persuaded back behind the wheel, as long as there's no Hurricane Charlies in the offing.
Any more of that and I'll lose my breakfast. And that cumbersome-looking thing under the car isn't something I've just driven over. It happens to be a pretty new development from Sweden, designed to train you on how to handle a car on ice and snow and very wet conditions. They have, of course, a great deal of that kind of thing there. In fact, you have to have some kind of skid training before you get your license. Looks very cumbersome and very awkward. It's very simple, just a cradle that sits under the car, locates on 4 bolts. They say it takes just about 20 minutes to fit. The wheels at each corner hydraulically pumped up and down, and they caster through 360 degrees. You've got a hydraulic pump in the boot. Inside the car, you've got a control, normally in the hands of the instructor, of course. 2 main controls, one for the rear axle, one for the front. 5 positions. And what you're doing really is progressively jacking the car up, so you're reducing the adhesion between the car's road wheels and the road surface. So 1 might correspond, for example, to normally wet conditions. 5 is like driving on sheet ice. And on one relatively short course, you can experience all those different driving conditions. Let's go through 2 or 3 situations you might, if you're unfortunate, experience in Britain this winter. Gordon beside me has the control box in his hand, so he's in charge of ice and snow on this beautiful sunny day. Typical, let's say, autumn conditions, a lot of water about, a lot of leaves on the road. You come to a big left-hand bend at 30 miles an hour. If you're at all heavy on the steering, or heavy on that right foot, or sharp with the brakes, then that's the sort of thing that will happen. Before you know where you are, you're in real trouble. But that is by no means inevitable. If, for example, you spot the conditions on the road fairly early, as soon as you feel that back end breaking away, you take off your right foot and you steer into the skid, you can actually get round the turn without hitting anything coming the other way. Okay, let's toughen the conditions up. Let's go to black ice just on the other side of a brow of a hill. Really, there's not very much you can do about it. If you touch anything at all, wow, you're totally out of control. Whoa. But it is just possible, they tell me, if you can catch it early enough, if you're not going too fast, to declutch to give the rear wheels the chance to maintain as much grip as they possibly can, holding the car on the steering column. It's possible to drift the car in a straight line straight ahead and retain some sort of control until those wheels bite on the road and you regain control. Not easy to do, I must tell you, not easy to do. So again, a dual carriageway, doing 35 to 40 miles an hour. You see an obstacle ahead, you jam that right foot down, and of course, you lose all steering and hit whatever's ahead of you. If you can just drag that right foot off the brake, it is possible to steer around the obstacle. Believe me, it's very, very authentic. And there's only one place you can get your hands on these skid cars, as they're called at the moment. That's at Silverstone, where for £30 they'll really put you through the works. That's really all for this week. Next week we've got a very varied and exciting programme that includes a master driving course with Jackie Stewart himself and a road test on the Renault GTA. Earlier time of 8 o'clock. So see you then. Until then, drive safely. Meanwhile, for me, time perhaps for one more quick spin.